Greetings, Holy Ones. I am Fabian with ChristosAvatar.com, and today we'll be talking about the spiritual beings called the Elohim, also known as the Blue Flame Rishi. We will be also talking about the Universal Trinity, the Cat People, Elohei versus Seraphei, the Emerald Order, the Emerald Covenant, the creation of the Anunnaki, about the Royal House of Aramatena, Interdimensional Association of Three Worlds, also about Azurite Security Team, the Guardian Alliance, the Coevolution Treaty, the creation of humans, also the Cradle of Lyra, Lyrans-Sirian Anuhazi, also the Azurite Blue Angels, the Oraphim Angels, the Turaneusiam Human Angels, also about animal people, ETs, Leonine, and the Great Sphinx, and the Hathor Deity, animals and insects, and also 12-strand humans. And these are the things that we'll be talking about today in this video. Now, I have placed time codes in the video description below, so if you guys want to skip right to a different part, please do so. But for the rest of you, we're going to start it here at the beginning. So thank you for being here, and consider subscribing to this channel if you would like to hear more, because we're talking about spiritual awakening, which is what is happening now during this ascension process, and what we talk about here on Christos Avatar. Now, we are getting deeper into this Master Templar Ascension playlist series, and in the previous videos, we already started talking about the different guardian angelic nations that live within our cosmic structures of reality. And I can just give you a quick review of what we've recently discussed, okay? Because this is about the fifth video of the series, and we just got through talking about how God, the Unisai, individualized itself into the first smaller sphere of consciousness. And that's called the Grandayanus Ascended Masters, the first cause. These Grandayanus Ascended Masters individualized into the next second smaller sound field sphere of consciousness called the Wachiyanus. Now, we explain all of these things in the Ascended Master video, so please check that out if you haven't seen it yet. I'll put it here in the description. But these Wachiyanus Ascended Masters, they individualized into the next third smaller sound field sphere of consciousness called the Ramyanus. Now, these three levels of Ascended Masters each helped to literally create our time matrix hologram. Okay? They're the ones who populated it with their own consciousness. So inside the hologram that we live in, these three Ascended Master collectives are also called Solar Rishi. These Solar Rishi, okay, because the reference to suns, are consciousness collectives, of suns, and they're literally suns that populate the three primal light fields of our time matrix. They are spherical, they are thermoplasmic, like hot plasma, that's basically light in a hot gaseous state. It's before matter solidification. Now, these three Rishi collectives are our founder races. They have, you can consider our universal family, and they represent the universal trinity of this time matrix. Now, these Rishi suns, they come in different colors. Now, we will be talking about the Gold Flame Rishi and the Violet Flame Rishi in separate videos. But today, we're talking about the first and the highest level Blue Flame, Elohim, of the 13th dimension. Now, I'll show you the time matrix diagram. You can see where they're located. And they are the first light manifestation of Source, God, consciousness. They were seeded by the Akkadic level Grandayanus Ascended Masters. Now, the Elohim are where we get human cats, cat humans, you would say cat person, a feline hominid, okay? And out of those has evolved into us, okay? This is our lineage. And the Elohim were the primary gene code that was used to form the human form. Okay, there is other things combined with it, but that was the primary one. And I have seen some work a few years ago about somebody that was channeling the Leonines, those cat beings, and it was interesting. It's a group. It's not this group of them, but it's one of their offshoots, the cat people. If you ever hear anyone talking about cat people or talking to cat people, they are basically talking to some version of the Elohim. Excuse me. And there are a few that got, tied up with the Anunnaki to try to help them out of, their family matrix, to go into the guardian matrix, right? So the Elohim, these are the groups that we are incarnate out of as far as, what our templates hold, the most coding for as far as the mathematics. Both Ashianuddin and I are out of the Elohim Emerald Order. And you can feel it by resonance. You may find that you're part of the other two, the gold and the violet, where you may have more coded with one of those others, and it's all right. Okay, they're all equal, because what's happened here, it's important to understand that these are all the same level of consciousness. Okay, there's not one better than the other. They came into like form these fields, right? How we described it. So it doesn't like imply one is better than the other. It's like everybody, run to the Elohei because you don't want to be a Seraphei because, well, Seraphei are lower than the Elohei. It doesn't work like that, okay? In the Anunnaki hierarchy, it does. That's what they teach, right? That's their way. They teach, like hierarchical control structures, but this is not about that. This is just, okay, well, we don't need everybody in big form here, okay? So we need a big one, and we need people to, like, play these roles, so it was, like, really a group of Ascended Master collectives to take on certain roles, all right? So we would have, like, smaller forms. So we would have also larger forms, but they were all equal, and they're supposed to remember that. Well, and they have up there, okay? It also tells us how we are supposed to look at each other. A child is no more inferior or lesser than an adult, right? That is going to be, eventually an adult itself. So a human being is no more inferior or lesser than, the avatar that it is up in the higher dimensional fields, okay? The value is equal, even if the development or the size is not equal, okay? The size and development level can, well, vary, but the equality of value is always the same. So the Elohei Elohim were the highest encoded ones out of the three flames, right? So you could say the Elohei are the blue flame, but they're also an order and a covenant. So they're also called the blue flame people, or the emerald order people, or the emerald covenant. These four terms are basically interchangeable. So, well, you can either call them Elohei, blue flame, emerald order, or emerald covenant. Because some people have different, you would say, preference, or they're used to calling them by a certain name, and each may have their preference. So now they're all referred to the same thing. And the Elohei are the guardians of the blue flame primal light field, because there's three of them. But they're with the blue one, and this is specifically dimension 13 field. Okay, so they were the Leonine cat people when they came down from their Christos template, and their main template was the Anuhazi feline. They were actually hominid felines, and it's really funny because well, you see some people that have issues with cats. Usually, it sounds silly, but it's usually a higher issue coming between who your avatar group is and its relationship to the Elohei. So now the word Elohei Elohim itself is, if you notice, two words. Okay, Elohei and Elohim. The Elohim part is reference to, well, some twisted versions of the Elohei that became what are called the Anu Elohim, okay, which are a fallen angelic group. And they are the ones that created the Anunnaki races. All right, so the Elohim are the fallen Elohei. All of them are, well, basically, you can look at those groups, they're all El families. Okay, you have your not fallen Els, and you have your fallen Els. Okay, that's what this is all about. This is like a family feud in the Elohim territories. Okay, well, that is a little bit of where the Anunnaki came from. So there is a whole bunch of coding, well, that we're carrying, in our DNA. And right now, most of us, well, we couldn't figure out if we're like a human soul in a semi-human body, or if we're just straight up Anunnaki or Draconian or what, okay? Because the people who are lizards in human bodies, because there are some, right, they don't know they're lizards. And the people who are Anunnaki don't know they're Anunnaki. And a lot of the people that are, well, learning this stuff and would be afraid to find out, right? Because that means, well, I have more problems? Does that mean I'm bad? No, it doesn't, okay? So that's where the law of one comes. That's the difference between those following the law of one and those who do not. Okay, so the Elohei Elohim have created, well, several different organizations, at different levels throughout our time matrix, which we will get familiar with. The first, because this is what the Guardians are part of. So first, the Blue Flame Elohei have created what's called the Royal House of Aramatena. Okay, because this is an order, so which is reference to the density 4 planet Aramatena, which is the highest ascended version of Earth. And we will be talking about, that planet and how it's related, how it's in our history. But the Royal House of Aramatena is just one of the 3 royal houses of Lyra. And we will be referring to the other Lyran royal houses like in following videos. The royal houses are basically the collectives of Christos founders races that keep the founders race template, genetic lines, and thus the potentials for biogenesis of any race line. So the Royal House of Aramatena are holding the Blue Flame Elohei genetic potential. And this Elohei, with the help also of the Gold Flame and the Violet Flame, have also created the Interdimensional Association of Free Worlds. And that would be abbreviated IAFW, and which is literally well, basically a 15-dimensional, massive, like universal service organization by the the Ascended Masters and the Rishi founder races, including the Blue Flame. And this was 250 billion years ago. Okay, this huge interdimensional association of free worlds, it was created to protect our time matrix from fallen angels and their race of dominion, okay, to restore the structural integrity of our time matrix that was already damaged by the warring of the fallen angels, and also to offer like bioregenesis, because I've talked about that, give them rehabilitation and ascension programs to these fallen angels, their legions, and in our time matrix. And I'll be making like a separate video about the IAFW, okay, because there's more to talk about them, and we'll get into more detail, okay. But the Blue Flame Elohei have also created this Azurite Universal Templar security team, to allow any Ascended Master from the energy matrix to like incarnate directly into the densities in our time matrix, kind of like parachute right in for crisis intervention. So this Azurite security team is really a special coded, like genetic, Ascended Master race line called the Iyani, okay, which has a full 48-strand DNA template, which allows for like direct incarnation into density, into the time matrix, from the Akkadic energy matrix, okay? The Azurite security team serves basically as the mobile unit of the IAFW. Its Azurite races are stationed like near each of the 12 primary stargates of the Universal Stargate Complex within the 4 density levels of matter in our time matrix. And this is a big deal. This is part of what we're involved with the stargates. Now, the Azurites are blue angels. They're a race line that was commissioned to restore and maintain the structural integrity of our Universal Stargate complex, because there's been some serious attacks and wars and conflicts over these things. And I'll be making a separate video more about this Azurite security team and go into more detail. Now, the Emerald Order Elohei, with the help of the Gold Flame again and the Violet Flame, have also created the Guardian Alliance, which we've talked about before, which Ashana Dean talks about. This is the Universal Service Organization that was created 568 million years ago. Not as old as those other ones, but it's still ancient to us, right? So now this was during the time when the human Oraphim, you would call it, angel lineage was created, and the Guardian Alliance, well, was basically like a task force to increase security in our time matrix when the legions of the Anu Elohim, fallen angels, created the Anunnaki race. This was around the same time, 568 million years ago, to destroy the human. We made this race, so they created another race called the Anunnaki to kill our race, to take out our race, basically. Okay? The Guardian Alliance specializes in propagation of the Emerald Covenant and serves as the governing body of over now it's like 10 million Emerald Covenant Star League nations, within the 4 densities of matter in our time matrix. So the Guardian Alliance is actually sort of, like the lowest level of these different organizations, but it is the one that we deal with down here on density 1. So the Guardian Alliance is the one that Ashana Dean usually refers to, but just keep in mind that there's these other higher levels of security and administration, such as the Interdimensional Association of Free Worlds and the Azurite security team, and also a few others that I haven't mentioned yet. So now the Elohei Emerald Order are basically the original, the first cause solar Rishi that have started the beginning of, everything else, okay? They're the ones that govern the creation contract in the first place. And it is a contract. That's why it's called the Emerald Covenant Co-Evolution Treaty, from the Elohei. That was the treaty upon which, agreements were made. Okay, you consider this is pretty serious. First you make the time matrix. Let's talk about it first. Let's make some agreements first, and that's what this was, basically. And, they wanted to figure out what type of time matrix this was going to be, and let's stipulate that this is going to be a free will system, and it's also going to be based on love. So this is the original covenant, okay, the Emerald Covenant, okay, and where consciousness of the Ascended Masters agreed on what the game rules were as they began to create this hologram that we exist in. So that's what the Emerald Covenant is all about, and so they are basically like the core blueprint. All right, the Emerald Covenant is a translation of the divine blueprint. I've talked about that in a few of these videos in this series. Excuse me, and and the original intention for this time matrix. God has a preference. There's an intention, okay, as it was agreed by Source God, the Ascended Masters, and the Solar Rishi founders races as well. So the Emerald Order Elohei Elohim Rishi families are keepers and speakers of the Blue Flame of the Emerald Covenant. They sustain what's called, we'll get into it, but it's called the 48 Akkadic level ascension codes. That's what they carry in their DNA templates when they incarnate, and they serve as primary guardians in our time matrix when they're here, and are charter members of the Guardian Alliance and other Melchizedek Blue Flame service organizations that we've already mentioned. And we'll be talking about more, because there's definitely more administration, organizations. So now the gold flame and the violet flame, well, they've created different races, each one, okay, and creatures. However, it's the blue flame Elohei that are the creators of the original Lyran-Sirian Anuhazi cat people. Okay, they created the Azurite blue angels. They created the Oraphim Angels, the Turaneusiam human and prototype, and also as well as creators of most hominid, feline, and land mammal life forms in our time matrix. This is the blue flame. This is what is coming out of the blue flame. This is the whole progression of, well, different types of forms that we come down through, from the highest to the lowest, like different race lines that build down into the smaller, genetics coding that is the human here. So our true human lineage comes from the Emerald Order Elohei, and it goes all the way through like the different density levels of matter in biology. They are the creators of our original human lineage, which came down from, everybody entered through what's called the Cradle of Lyra in density 4, and it is associated with the Lyran star system here. If we look up and we see the Lyran star system, take that up to density 4, and that is the entry point where life was seeded literally 950 billion years ago into this time matrix. Of course, this is way before we were created, but this time matrix existed way before that, but this was the last life seeding in the time matrix. Because remember, these are cycles. Just like time cycles are repeating, so is the time matrix, the entire time matrix. Okay, but we don't really need to worry about more than 950 billion years of history, right? It's enough to deal with for a while. So they created the Turaneusiam human angel lineage from the density 4 Lyran Anuhazi blue cat people race. Then the Anuhazi cat race came down into density 3 into, well, the Sirius star system. Okay, out of necessity, they went from Lyra to the Sirius. Okay, because their planet Aramatena was blown up. So the Lyran Anuhazi started to live with the Sirians on planet Sirius B. So once we were Lyrans, well, now we're Lyran-Sirians, okay? This is density universe 3. And into there was a combination race that included some of the higher codes, of the Blue Flame Rishi back again into these Anuhazi cat people. And what was created was we've talked about them already, or mentioned the Azurite Blue Angel race. That's where the name, well, she uses the Azurite temple, Ashiana. That's where that comes from. And the Azurite angelic race was in, well, they're a high race, but they were in density 2, 3, and 4 of Sirius B. And they are, the Azurites are one of the most powerful races ever created. They were like blue skin, land, water mammal, well, cat, bird, hominid, okay? So they some of them had like feathered heads and wings, which they created 250 billion years ago with the formation of that Interdimensional Association of Free Worlds, around the same time. In order to, they were created in order to provide, greater protection and healing efforts in our time matrix. And it wasn't only the Anuhazi genetics that created the Azurite race. It was, because this is a super race, the Azurites. Also, the Pegasus, bird, horse, deer race, and the Mantis, okay, also called Athean, and also the Inu whale race, and also, co-created the new guardian angelic super race called the Azurites. So, by the way, I will be making like separate videos for all of these different races that I'm talking about today. So there's much more, but right now, today, I'm just making a reference of who came out of the Blue Flame Elohei. Then the Azurite Blue Angels were combined again with the Anuhazi to form an angelic race called the Oraphim Angels. These are getting closer to the hominid forms that we have now. Now, the Oraphim Angels were seated in density 2. See, we're getting lower. Now we're in density 2 on Tara. But they were also able to migrate to density 3, back and forth. This is a special form that can go between density 3 and density 3, or 2 and 3, and still retain their biology. Not all beings can do that, of course. They'll lose their integrity, but not them. So it's very interesting species. Now, the Oraphim Angel race was the host race out of which the human lineage, the different genetic codings that became the human lineage were seeded through the Oraphim Angel race. We're literally coming out of an angel race. So technically, the angelic human race is the Oraphim angelic race, but in smaller form. When we get into we will get into them again, the Oraphim again. But our DNA templates are bigger. Now the Oraphim DNA template has more than 12 strands. So right now on Earth, from where we are, we're working on only 3-strand capacity. Let's worry about the first 12 and get those activated. Then worry about activating the rest of our organically human and more imprint. So out of the Oraphim Angels came a race called I've made a video about them, the Turaneusiam human angels. Okay, some of you, that sounds ludicrous. Check out that video. I'll put a link to it. Again, when you see Tura, as in Turaneusiam, The word that resembles Tura usually refers to oversoul or the ability to embody an oversoul. So the race is called the Turaneusiam Angels because they could embody the oversoul and even up to 12 dimensions of consciousness. That's our 12th strand, baby. Okay, it was the 12th dimensional angelic human pattern that we have. In my Turaneusiam angelic human race video, I get into explaining the Turaneusiam human lineage and that at certain points on the planet called Tara, which is density 2 of Earth, they were digressions that happened in some of the Turaneusiam lineage. We didn't come out of the digressions, we came out of the groups that were repaired back, okay, to their original full Turaneusiam form. That's what bioregenesis is. It's repairing your damaged, distorted DNA. And we will do that for the fallen angels if they asked, if they agreed to a certain agreement. So, but they were called eventually we were called from that the Adamic Kudman. This is where you get the Adamic races when the Enoch teachings talk about the Adamic races. So that whole line, Lyran-Sirian Anuhazi, Azurite, Oraphim, Turaneusiam, and then Adamic Kudman. Okay, that's what it is referring to, like what a human is all the way down to the scale and density, right? Throughout the scales. And if you notice in the New Age movement, or, well, the UFO movement, there are beings of every shape, size, and form that are talking to people these days through channeling. So you have cat people, dog people, snake people, I mean, all sorts of people that look like animals and things like that. You know, like why do all these Egyptians have bird heads? Okay, the basic forms for animal forms here came out of stellar races as well. And there are certain forms that we are connected to. We're talking about the Emerald Order Elohei. They created the Lyran-Sirian Anuhazi, you know, that chain all the way down to the Christed angel, okay, human angels of Tara. They're also the creators of most hominid forms, or, well, human type forms. So in our time matrix, most feline and land mammal life forms, okay? And so they are really associated with feline, which means cats. I mean, you would think, what? Cats are like one of the highest level beings in our universe? Yes. So it also means like those positive Leonine that are channeling through people, well, they're legit, you know, some of those from the higher places. Now, the great Sphinx was originally the face of a lion, a feline. And it was a lion because the Anunnaki, well, the ones that decided to stay with Council and wanted help from Council, well, they got help from this feline race called the Leonines. And they literally look like cat people. And they are from density 3. And they intervened and they helped, you know, well, the Anunnaki that wanted, you know, to evolve during those ancient Egyptian days. And I talked about all this Egyptian stuff in another video. Check that out. So also from this Blue Flame Elohei is where you get Hathor, another race that was, well, brought in by the Elohei. And it's not exactly cow, but that's where that affiliation came from. So the Hathors are actually part cow, part cat, part Anunnaki, part human. Okay, that's what the Hathor goddess. It's a race, actually, though. It's not an individual, it's a race. The Sphinx was not meant to honor the Hathor in particular, but the race that made all that possible and that was trying to bring the races together was the Leonines, and the Anunnaki that helped to build these temples. And the Anunnaki did, the good ones. You know, they were Sirian Anunnaki. I talked about those too, but they were Sirian Council Anunnaki that set the foundations. They gave the Egyptians the plans. The Great Sphinx is an Anunnaki design as far as the temples go, but they represent us, the Lyrans, the lions, the felines, okay? And they taught the Egyptians how to build and how to do it together with them. So, and remember, they had the Ankh and technology. Even the people who are studying like the new Egyptian stuff coming out, you know, that gets into like the Hathor race. Well, the Hathor genetics was an attempt to give the Anunnaki, the negative ones, a re-evolution program that we just mentioned, so they could regenerate their ascension codes back. Okay, that's what the Hathors are. So if you could like begin to like understand the basic affiliations of form that go with each of these three flames, you'll figure out who you are. You have basic human forms coming out of the Elohei, okay, the Emerald Order. Basic cat forms, okay, a lot of land mammal forms. When you see life forms, when you see those life forms here, those animal forms, they're like us. I mean, in a way, they hold a part of that consciousness here. Just, you know, just like there's fallen Anu Elohim, there are animals and insects that incarnate out of that same matrix, out of their matrix. So we need to understand the stuff around us more. Like literally, if we realize these are all DNA templates coming out of the blue flame, gold flame, and violet flame, okay? So you can basically say the cat people and the land mammals and the human forms, the hominid forms, all hominid forms come out of the blue flame Elohei. So we can thank them for creating beings like us. Okay, so it's extremely important right now that we realize who we are and where the bad guys come from. and what they're affiliated with, what we're affiliated with, because they have done every time they have come to try and take over here, is that they have tried to put themselves as our creator gods and convolute the true lineage that we came out of to make it look like we're eight forms here, and well, they came in and genetically enhanced the eight form, enhanced us, and we should really be thankful to them for making us the wonderful beings that we are today. Which is absolutely an utterly lie. Okay, it's being promoted very heavily in the New Age movement right now and among scientists, and that's going to become much more evident as the New Age movement progresses. And we need to realize this, because what they're trying to trick us into, well, basically they want to trick us into not knowing who we are. They're trying to say, oh, well, they'll also try something else. They'll say, oh, here, do this. Your 12 strands are activated. See that? Now you are a 12-strand human. Because they already know, a lot of us have the idea, right, that, wait, didn't we have 12 strand? Okay? They have 11 strand capacity, first of all. Remember that in the back of your mind. They have less DNA than we do. They don't want us to evolve our 12 strand. They're scared we'll get our 12 strand. They're trying to trick us into thinking, we already activated those 12 strands when we haven't. They are giving, giving us partial ascension teachings that are twisted. So we don't keep looking, and so we don't listen to the solar Rishi. This is what's happening in this time matrix right now. This has happened in our history before, and that's why in this year 2022, a whole planet full of humans walks around not knowing where the heck it came from. Okay, what its history was, what is our history, okay, or what it means to just be alive, or what is God. Okay, it's because that they've tricked us before. And they have played these games before. This is not new. Every time there is a Stargate opening cycle like now, the potential for, or even the potential for one to happen. So this is why when I spend so much time on history and going through all those details, what seems like pre-ancient history, I'm talking millions of years. So who cares, right? It's all over with. It's not all over with. It's repeating itself, holy ones. We can make a difference this time if we're wise enough, okay? And if we watch out for all these landmines, okay? The landmines are planted all through the New Age movement, all these twisted, distorted beliefs and practices right now, and particularly since, well, there's a treaty that Oceana talks about, the Treaty of 1992. As recently as 1992, it was broken. But I want you to understand, when I give you this information, it's so somebody here has the real truth before they contaminate the thought field here so much that nobody is going to remember, okay? I know these are true teachings. I hope you can find that knowing. And it's not for me to hope that you find it. It's for you and for this race, the human race, because what the Anunnaki are trying to do and have tried to do and almost, exceeded in doing is taking this race and doing their hybridization, getting us hybridized out of our 12 strand. This is how bad they want us, don't want us to have our 12 strand potential, as they, because they want to be in control. So if we don't have our 12 strand, they don't have the 12-strand potential because they severed that connection. That was their choice. They severed it from the Christos template because they don't want to be under the guidance of the solar Rishi, the blue flame, gold flame, violet flame. They don't want to apply the law of one. They're not into the law of one. They are more interested in running control agendas, okay, in this time matrix. And 250 billion years ago, they tried to take this time matrix over and have been trying to do it ever since. All right? They are seed races, actually. The Anunnaki race itself is not 250 billion years old. That's actually their parent seed, Anu Elohim races. Sometimes I get, I call the Anu Elohim the Anunnaki, but it's really, they're the ones who are the originals, who created the Anunnaki. So when I'm bringing you this data to you, okay, it's very of the times. It's not ancient history that you can just yawn and go to sleep and wake up when the next class is here, right? I'm trying to help, and the Guardians are trying to help. They're trying to help us understand our lineage, the basic structure of, and also, so you understand the time matrix. I make the diagrams so you can understand them. So when someone comes up to you and says, oh yeah, the Anunnaki created us, the Sumerian history proves it. Yeah, we're just little Anunnaki babies down here. Don't believe it. Okay, guys? Don't believe it for a minute. It's a lie. It's been purposely orchestrated and run through the minds of innocent people down here. I mean, innocent as far as not knowing, anything in this lifetime. A lot of us don't remember. Nobody is innocent down here. We have all huge amounts of data and memory. You don't remember, but you do have memory. You just don't access it of who you were before and who we were before in other time vectors, time spaces. Okay? They are trying to con us right now, and even little groups like Christos Avatar currently have, well, the last I checked, it's almost 1,000 people subscribed here, and any other small guardian groups out here. Okay? Some of you have started guardian groups. We start to get it and realize what's happening. There will be at least someone, something that's preserving the original Emerald Covenant freedom, agreement that we talked about, where humans were created to be a divine angelic race. Remember, a guardian race, okay, where humans have the chance, okay, because if the Anunnaki have their way, they will take contemporary humanity and they will hybridize and they will progressively mutate us out of the 12 strand capacity. That will be their gift to humanity. They will give them, give hybrid races here that will progressively allow their matrix to incarnate into those body forms, part human. Well, they want to have part human codes so they can get their presence on the planet, and they get what they wanted. Control over its planetary Stargate complex. There's this guy talking about Stargates again, because Earth has some key Stargates, all right, that go with the Universal Templar Stargate complex. It's a big game, what we're in the middle of. And it's a very ancient game, a very serious game. These beings are not really want to take after us. They're after the Stargates. I thank you for watching this video about the Elohei Blue Flame Rishi, which is, the highest of the 3 founder races. If you like what you have learned today in this video, you guys, please like and subscribe. And you definitely want to click on the next video that comes up, okay, on the screen here, because in that video, okay, we just talked about the Blue Flame, but in that video, we'll be going over the other 2 founder races in this Master Templar playlist series, and starting with the Gold Flame Rishi called the Seraphim, okay, in the next video. And they are the ones, well, they're connected to a whole other line of beings. They're the Royal House of Vega, the Vega star system, and the Orion star system. Eventually they'll go there. And we will be talking about how they are the creators of the Ceres. They're called Ceres, bird people, the Athean, mantis beings, the Omicron dragon moths, the dragon, Dracon winged reptilians. They're real. The Dracos, human reptile hybrids. They look like us, sort of. Also the Necromaton beetle people, the Azrael dark angels, the dinoids or dinosaurs, the Odedicron bird reptiles, the Zeta Reticuli gray aliens, and much more. So you definitely want to check out that video. So I'll see you guys in the next video in this Ascension series. I'm truly grateful for you guys for being here. There's now a community of you coming, a community of starseeds and indigo children coming to the lives. If you guys haven't seen my live, I have a live show every day around, it's my time, 5 to 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So thank you for being here, Holy Ones. I love you. I'm truly grateful for you. See you in the next video. Peace. Namaste.